Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're basically putting on our hard hats and acting as data architects. If you've ever found yourself staring at just a mountain of messy, completely disconnected tables, kind of wondering how on earth to turn them into one of those dynamic, enterprise-level masterpieces, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We aren't just going to casually look at charts today. No, we're going to dive deep into the very foundation of how data modeling actually works, using the raw materials of Power BI to build something incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's quickly hit our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Laying the data foundation. 2. Combining your tables. 3. Controlling the view. 4. The power of DAX. And 5. Unlocking advanced interactivity. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Laying the data foundation. Laying the groundwork.
Look, as any good builder knows, you absolutely cannot wire the electricity until the concrete foundation is poured and completely set. Think of the star schema as your reliable, go-to blueprint for that foundation. It gets its name because, well, it literally looks like a star. You place your fact table directly in the center. This table holds your heavy quantitative data, things you can actually count or sum up, like sales amounts, quantities, or a date ID. Then, radiating outward from that center, you have your dimension tables. These are the descriptive details that give your numbers all their context, like the specific product name, the category, or the store location. This structure is famously known as the gold standard for a reason.
Now, building right on top of that, we have the snowflake schema. This is a direct variation of the star schema, but it adds a whole new layer of complexity. Instead of just having solid dimension tables radiating from the center, the snowflake schema takes those outer descriptive tables and splits them up even further, a process called normalization. So instead of a single product table, you might have a product table that links out to a separate category table, which then links out again to a subcategory table. It branches out, looking exactly like a complex snowflake. So the absolutely crucial point here is knowing when to use which. The star schema has much lower complexity with fewer joins, meaning its performance is incredibly fast and heavily optimized for Power BI. The trade-off, you get slightly higher data redundancy. The snowflake schema, on the other hand, reduces that redundancy, but requires multiple, complex joins that will for sure slow down your performance. The major takeaway you need to remember? For the vast majority of your day-to-day reports, just stick to the star schema. The snowflake is strictly reserved for massive, highly complex enterprise data warehouses.
Okay, so we've got our ideal blueprint. But let's be real, in the real world, things are rarely that clean. It's a remarkably common headache to have your sales numbers living in one file, and the product details they refer to sitting in a completely different database. So how do we bring them together seamlessly?
Section 2. Combining your tables, merge versus append.
Let's connect the plumbing between these isolated data sources using the Power Query Editor. First up is merging queries. Merging is a distinctly horizontal action. Think of it exactly like a VLOOKUP in Excel, but, thankfully, without all those endless NA errors. You use this when you have two tables with related information that you desperately want sitting side by side. For instance, if Table A has a product ID and a sales amount, and Table B has that exact same product ID but includes the product description, you merge them together using that ID as your key. The result? One wide table showing your sales numbers sitting right next to the exact product description.
Conversely, appending queries is a completely vertical action. I always like to think of this one like stacking pancakes. You use an append when you have multiple files that contain the exact same columns, but they represent different categories or maybe different time periods. If you have one table for January sales and a completely separate table for February sales, you don't want them side by side. You append them. You literally stack February right underneath January, creating one long, continuous query.
So a brilliant little rule of thumb to just keep in your back pocket: merge side by side to add context and detail, or append top to bottom to add volume and history.
Section 3. Controlling the view, slicers, and filters. Now that our tables are beautifully combined into a clean model, we need to install the windows and doors. Now, while both of these restrict data, slicers and filters serve entirely different functional purposes. Slicers are your interactive on-canvas tools. These are designed specifically for your end user, letting the boss easily click around and switch the view between different regions or maybe different years. Quick pro tip, always try to use the drop-down style for slicers to save yourself precious canvas space. Filters, on the flip side, live in a dedicated side pane and work totally behind the scenes. As a developer, you use these to strictly limit data at 3 specific levels: for a single visual, across an entire page, or globally across the whole report file.
All right, with the structure and the viewing controls securely in place, our dashboard is honestly still largely static. We need to wire up the actual responsive calculations that are going to breathe life into our reporting.
Section 4. The power of DAX, dynamic calculations.
DAX, which stands for Data Analysis Expressions, is quite literally the electrical wiring of Power BI. It's the formula language that responds dynamically every single time a user clicks a slicer or interacts with a chart. You've got your core DAX functions, which give you immediate power over your model with surprisingly simple syntax. You have sum and average for your basic math and count to tally up numerical cells. But definitely pay special attention to distinct count. This one is incredibly powerful when you need to know exactly how many unique customers made a purchase, rather than just the raw total number of transactions. And finally, count rows, which does exactly what it says on the tin, tallying up the entire table's volume.
Okay. Pay incredibly close attention to this next concept, because understanding this is an absolute game changer for your file performance. When you write DAX, you have to choose between a calculated column and a measure. Calculated columns look at data row by row. They calculate during the data refresh and are permanently stored in your file, which, fair warning, massively increases your file size. You should save these strictly for when you need a brand new category for a slicer. Measures, however, they look at the whole filtered view. They calculate completely on the fly in real time and are never stored in the file, keeping your dashboard incredibly light and incredibly fast. Always use measures for your aggregations, like total sales.
So at this point, the data is flawlessly structured, combined, and mathematically wired. Now let's finally paint the walls. How do we take this from a basic, maybe slightly boring report to an incredibly engaging, app-like experience for the user?
Section 5. Unlocking advanced interactivity, creating that app-like experience. First up, we have bookmarks. A bookmark essentially acts as a camera, capturing the exact current state of a report page at any given moment. It saves the exact filters applied, the slicer settings, and even which visuals are currently visible or hidden. Bookmarks are basically your secret weapon here. You can use them to create a highly functional Clear All Filters button, or to create a seamless toggle switch that lets the user flip between two entirely different dashboard views without ever having to leave the page.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of how this builds. Setting this up takes just 4 simple steps. You activate the panes in the View tab, dial in your absolutely perfect report state, click Add to save the bookmark, and then simply assign that bookmark to a clickable button. Just like that, you instantly elevate the interactive polish of your final product. It's like magic.
Next up, tooltips. By default, a tooltip is just that little text box that appears when you hover your mouse over a data point. But the real magic happens with report page tooltips. This feature allows you to save precious screen real estate by designing a miniature, fully customized report page. When a user hovers over a single bar chart representing, say, a region, boom! A tiny, detailed visual pops up, providing instant, deep context without cluttering up your main screen at all.
Finally, we have drill through. Imagine your boss is looking at a high-level bar chart and sees a massive, unexpected spike in the electronics category. Naturally, they want to know exactly what caused it. Drill through is the exact tool you use here. It allows the user to right-click that specific electronics data point and literally jump to a separate, highly detailed destination page that is automatically pre-filtered to show only the individual transactions and customers for electronics.
By following these 5 structured steps, you are building a highly logical deep dive pathway. You create your detail page, drag your target category into the drill-through well, let the software automatically generate a handy back button for easy navigation, and then just test it out. It is the ultimate way to keep your main dashboard clean and executive-friendly while still fully satisfying that deep analytical need for granular, row-by-row data.
And there you have it, folks. We've gone from messy, isolated tables to a fast, mathematically sound, and highly interactive application. You now possess the true architectural blueprints for enterprise-grade reporting. The tools are literally all laid out right in front of you. So the only question left is, how will you use these blueprints to completely transform your company's messy data tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy building!